identified him while taking his order. If the information below is not correct, please amend by crossing out the names of persons no longer resident, Tim had read lately, on his electoral form, and had had to look for a pen. Some moments passed while this crawled across the landscape of his heart. And then the light altered, because the woman had approached and was gesturing at the unused half of his table. His face must have remained blank. She resorted to speech. "Do you mind?" He shook his head. She sat on the far end of the sofa, leaving a good 2 feet between them, placed her glass and a folded newspaper on the table, and leaned back, closing her eyes. On any list of things Tim did not want right now, company came first, second, and third. For a start, it called for a rearrangement of his body. He compromised by pulling the ashtray closer, a gesture that ceded territory. He wasn't eating this evening. He wouldn't be taking up space much longer. He planned to have 2 or possibly many more glasses of wine, then go upstairs. Her being here didn't alter his plan. This was a comfortable dining room, favouring armchairs and sofas. Guests weren't pressed to hurry. But soon she could have the long table to herself. He tried to convey all this in the way he picked up his glass, but it was impossible to know if she understood. The wine, which Emma had taught him to enjoy, he'd been a beer man, should have been a treat. But it was simply the next thing happening. He wasn't drunk yet, just dislocated enough to feel his fingers rubbery as they negotiated glass back onto table. He didn't spill, but sloshed a little. She didn't notice, because her eyes remained closed. She had long, dark, wavy hair, almost black. And maybe this made her skin seem paler than it was, or maybe it was pale anyway. And she wore a lot of makeup. This was presumably to cover a bruise on the side of her face nearest him. Not a terribly large bruise, nor old enough to have purpled and blacked, but definitely there, for all the careful layers she'd painted on top. He looked away before her eyes could open, and let his gaze sweep the room once more, as if he had enemies who might have sneaked in while his mind roamed elsewhere. But there was nothing here that didn't always happen. People eating, drinking, talking, being happy in a public place. The English was supposed to be repressed, beaten to a pulp by the weather, and an ineradicable sense of loss of empire. So why was everyone so bloody cheerful? In the far corner, a young couple looked about 2 minutes off conceiving their first child, while in the opposite, a pair who might have been their grandparents were toasting each other, with smiles whose wrinkles matched like bookends. The time it took Tim's gaze to cross from one to the other, a whole lifetime of promises had been kept and twice renewed. And waiters came and went, of course, and plates were scratched by knives and forks. Whatever the music was, changed to something precisely as tasteful. Outside, a car left, and another arrived to take its place. All this just scratching Tim's surface, as if life were a TV he wasn't watching but couldn't ignore. It was impossible, while alive, to divorce yourself from events, even the boring, even the stupid. When the last thing you wanted was conversation, you found yourself discussing the merits of various whiskies. When the last thing you wanted was company, a woman joined you, wearing a noticeable dress. Tim looked out of the window again, watched for a while early evening sunlight reflecting off the windscreen of a blue Toyota, a windscreen whose wipers had cleared a stylized M shape on a background of reddish dust. He wondered why this detail mattered. He wondered why he bothered noticing. Time to stop. He returned to his book, the novel he was struggling through. It was a Graham Greene, one of Emma's. Emma had left her books behind, and though he'd made a genuine effort to concentrate, the story's fundamental unreality hummed away beneath the narrative. It was set in 1953, for God's sake. Didn't the characters realise that?